Good evening. I'm Ashley Smith. My mother Anna and I are here to represent my cousin Stephen Ketchum, who went missing on July 13, 2018, from our small hometown in southeast Missouri at the age of 26. It is an honor to have been invited to speak on his behalf. Stephen and I were raised more like siblings rather than cousins. We spent a lot of time together as we were growing up, and in our teen years we became best friends. He was 4 years younger than me, so he tagged along with me everywhere. Stephen was a comedian. He was literally one of the funniest people I've ever known. He never failed to make you smile, but more than make you smile and laugh, Stephen can make you feel loved. His love for his family and friends was undeniable. Stephen never left your home or hung up the phone without saying the words, "I love you." His hugs were so tight and sincere, they would almost take your breath away. I always joked that someday he would break my grandma in two because he hugged her the same way. As Stephen grew older, he chose the wrong path, made some bad decisions, and eventually became an addict. If you've never mourned the loss of a person who is still living, you've never loved an addict. There were times when the Stephen that we knew would surface, and it would be like a breath of fresh air to see him sober. His joy and laughter would return momentarily, and we would have him back for just a bit. In June 2018, Stephen tried to hang himself in a patch of woods near my home. The next morning, he showed up on my front porch. He told me his thoughts and how he tried to kill himself several times. I talked him into checking into a mental health facility that day, and I drove him there. They only kept him for 3 days. And I picked him up, and he was still in the state of mind as he was when I dropped him off. 2 weeks later, July 13th, 2018, Stephen went missing. Our family is so close. Stephen's father, Larry, knew within 24 hours that something wasn't right. Stephen contacted his dad every day, no matter what. He'd tell people, "Call my dad, let him know that I'm okay." A missing persons report was filed 2 days after he went missing. The majority of law enforcement officers believe Stephen just walked away. We as a family knew that Stephen would never do that. Immediately, my mother, myself, and my grandma launched our own investigation, as I think we all sometimes feel they're not moving quick enough or not doing enough. We traced his last known steps, eventually gained access into his Facebook and email accounts. We thoroughly investigated every single person he conversed with in person or via social media. We searched ditches, abandoned buildings, bridges, on foot and ATV. We contacted several news channels. And they refused to air his story. They never aired his story. The only platform we had to share his photo was Facebook. Stephen was covered in tattoos from neck to ankles down both arms. And I always wonder if he hadn't have had those tattoos, or if he wasn't an addict, if we would have gotten more news coverage. I learned about Q and contacted our state rep, Marsha, I'm sorry. A search was organized in October. Stephen had already been missing for 3 months. Q selflessly showed up and searched land and waterways. The people of Q we met during the absolute hardest times of our lives were professional, determined, and relentless. We gained so many people who we are honored to now call our friends. Unfortunately, that search didn't produce remains or any answers for us that day. However, there was a strange peace, knowing that we knew where he wasn't. We were assured by Q that they would not give up in helping us find him. Many of us here know the intense emotions and helplessness you feel when you have a missing loved one. You become obsessed. There is a persistent need to find answers. There isn't 1 second of your day that you're awake that you aren't wondering where they are. I remember waking up many nights, 3 o'clock in the morning on the dot, every morning, just for that reason, to wonder, where's Stephen? Especially on the cold, bitter nights or the days when the rain won't let up, when the ground is covered in snow or the mosquitoes are swarming. Where are you? It was a question I would catch myself saying audibly every day. There's an indescribable helplessness that you feel when there are no leads. There's an intense pain that consumes you at times. And there's a heaviness that never really lifts. Stephen's father had to eventually quit working because he just could not focus. You find yourself subconsciously scanning every ditch and tree line just on your way to the store, straining your eyes at every piece of paper on the road. Maybe it's something that fell out of his pocket or his ID. Everyone becomes a suspect in your mind. You lose yourself at times and do things that you wouldn't normally do. I recall one morning waking up and I had this sense of bravery. Looking back, it was stupid bravery. My grandma and I loaded up our pistols for protection. She's 70. Almost. We drove out to one of the most drug-ridden, most sketchiest places in our area that Stephen frequented. We had no sense of fear, and we walked door to door that day and handed out flyers to some of the very scary people. We didn't get the help that Stephen deserved, so a lot of the investigation was done by us. The local police department actually called me Sherlock Holmes because I never gave up. I would not give up. We knew he wasn't alive, but we deserved answers, and he deserved to be brought home. On January 30th, 2019, Stephen's remains were discovered just half a mile from his home by a farmer who was clearing a tree line. Q was actually organizing another search in a different area for the next week or so. Approximately 15 bones were found out of the 200 plus that are in the body, and his remains were confirmed by dental records. And we laid Stephen to rest the next week. We will never know what happened to our Stephen on July 13th, 2018. We will never know if foul play was involved. We will never know if he died by suicide or natural causes. We will never know what happened in those last moments or how long he laid out there, or the thoughts that flooded his mind before he drew his last breath. I know our family is blessed to have closure, as so many families never do. We certainly still have questions, and I think we always will. We struggle with when to let go and let him rest in peace. I cannot tell you if that time ever comes because we've not made it there yet. I can say that this unfortunate experience has inspired us to want to share Stephen's story to others in this situation. I want to tell you that it is imperative that you are an advocate for your missing loved one. You have to be their voice. You must speak up if you have information, even if it seems far-fetched. We know our family more than any detective or law enforcement officer does. So as they do their job, your knowledge could be instrumental in bringing your loved one home. Do not give up hope. Do not accept anything less than what your loved one deserves. We were so involved in Stephen's investigation that our police chief of our town made the comment that if something were to ever happen to him, he'd want us on his team. And he was sincere, because we were relentless. That's how dedicated we were, and that's how dedicated you have to be. Stephen will live on through his two young sons, Matthew and Riley. We will share his story in hopes of helping others and breaking the stigma that a person who is covered in tattoos or doesn't look like we think they should is still a person. They are still loved, because behind the tattoos and the rugged exterior, through those dark brown eyes filled with pain, was a gentle, kind, loving person. A person who loved without fear and could light up a room with a smile. In those rare moments of silence, I can still hear his laugh and I feel his hug that still takes my breath away. On behalf of myself and my family, I want to thank you for your complete selflessness, dedication, and passion for this cause. I want to end with a poem by Robert Browning Hamilton. You may have heard it if you attended Dennis Gillen's class over the last 2 days. I think it is relevant to the masses in attendance today. I walked a mile with pleasure. She chatted all the way, but left me none the wiser for all she had to say. I walked a mile with sorrow, and ne'er a word said she, but oh, the things I learned from her when sorrow walked with me. Thank you.